Grab them by the pussy. During Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, he faced two main controversies that got a lot of attention. First, there were claims that he encouraged violence at his rallies. Some people said Trump's words made his supporters act aggressively towards protesters. For example, at one rally, Trump said he'd like to punch a protester in the face. This kind of talk worried many people who thought it could lead to real violence. The second big issue came from a leaked video recording. In this tape, Trump was heard talking to a TV host in a very disrespectful way about women. He used crude language and bragged about touching women without their permission because he was famous. This became known as the Access Hollywood tape scandal. An interesting detail: despite these controversies, Trump's popularity with his core supporters didn't decrease much. In fact, some of his fans said they liked him more because he spoke his mind and wasn't politically correct. These controversies shocked many people, but also showed how Trump's unconventional style appealed to certain voters. Russia connections. The Russia investigation was a big deal during and after Trump's presidency. It started because people were worried that Russia might have helped Trump win the 2016 election. The main question was, did Trump's team work with Russia to influence the election? To find out, the government appointed a special investigator named Robert Mueller. He spent almost 2 years looking into this. Mueller and his team talked to lots of people and looked at many documents. They found that Russia did try to interfere with the election by spreading false information online and hacking into Democratic Party computers. However, they couldn't prove that Trump's team actively worked with Russia on this. Still, the investigation did find other problems. Several people close to Trump got in trouble for lying to investigators or other crimes not directly related to working with Russia. An interesting detail: during this time, Trump often called the investigation a witch hunt on Twitter, now called X. He tweeted about it more than 300 times. In the end, Mueller's report didn't clear Trump completely, but it also didn't find enough evidence to say he committed a crime. This left both Trump's supporters and critics claiming they were right, and the controversy continued even after the investigation ended. Ukraine Gate. The phone call that nearly toppled a president. In 2019, President Trump faced his first impeachment. This happened because of a phone call he had with the president of Ukraine. The main issue was that Trump asked Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son. At the time, Biden was likely to run against Trump in the next election. Many people thought Trump was trying to get a foreign country to help him win the election, which isn't allowed. Also, there were concerns that Trump held back military aid to Ukraine to pressure them into doing this investigation. This is what people called the quid pro quo, a fancy way of saying, you do this for me and I'll do that for you. The House of Representatives, run by Democrats, voted to impeach Trump. They said he abused his power and obstructed Congress by not cooperating with their investigation. An interesting detail: during the impeachment hearings, a phrase from the phone call became famous. Trump had asked Ukraine to do us a favor, though. This phrase was repeated often in the news and even printed on t-shirts. The case then went to the Senate for a trial. The Senate, controlled by Republicans, voted to acquit Trump, meaning he stayed in office. This impeachment showed how divided the country was politically, with most Democrats supporting it and most Republicans opposing it. Trump's pandemic playbook. In early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world, including the United States. As president, Trump was in charge of leading the country's response to this crisis. However, his handling of the situation became very controversial. Many people criticized Trump for 1. Downplaying the seriousness of the virus, often comparing it to the flu; 2. Giving confusing or incorrect information about the virus and treatments; 3. Disagreeing with health experts like Dr. Anthony Fauci in public; and 4. Not encouraging mask wearing and sometimes mocking those who wore masks; and 5. Pushing for businesses and schools to reopen quickly, even when case numbers were high. Trump's supporters said he was trying to prevent panic and keep the economy strong, but his critics argued that his approach led to more infections and deaths. An interesting detail: in one press conference, Trump suggested that injecting disinfectant might help fight the virus. This led to a sharp increase in calls to poison control centers as health officials rushed to warn people not to try this dangerous idea. The COVID-19 response became a major issue in the 2020 election, with many voters unhappy about how the pandemic was handled under Trump's leadership. Election meltdown. In the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden won against Donald Trump. However, Trump didn't accept this result. He claimed that there was widespread cheating in the election, which he called voter fraud. Trump said things like votes for him were thrown away, voting machines changed votes from him to Biden, dead people voted, there were more votes than voters in some places. However, election officials, courts, and even Trump's own government agencies said these claims weren't true. They found no evidence of widespread cheating that could have changed who won. Despite this, Trump kept saying that the election was stolen from him. He refused to admit he lost, which is called conceding, by the way, and didn't want to help with the normal change of power to the new president. In interesting detail, in one press conference, Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, made claims about election fraud while dark hair dye dripped down his face. This odd moment became a popular meme and was widely shared on social media. Trump's refusal to accept the election results worried many people. They feared it could make people lose trust in elections and cause unrest. These fears turned out to be real when some of Trump's supporters later attacked the U.S. Capitol building. The Capitol attack. On January 6, 2021, something shocking happened in Washington, D.C. A large group of Donald Trump's supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol building. This is the place where Congress meets to make laws and do important government business. That day, Congress was meeting to officially count the votes from the 2020 election and confirm Joe Biden as the next president. But many of Trump's supporters believed his claims that the election was unfair, even though those claims weren't true. Trump held a rally near the White House where he told his supporters to march to the Capitol. Many of them did, and some turned violent. They broke into the building, smashing windows and doors. Politicians and staff had to run and hide to stay safe. The attack lasted for several hours before police could clear the building. 5 people died because of the events that day, including a police officer. In interesting detail, one of the rioters, known as the QAnon shaman, became famous for his strange outfit. He wore face paint, a fur hat with horns, and carried a spear with an American flag. This attack was seen as a serious threat to American democracy. Many people, including some Republicans, blamed Trump for encouraging the violence with his words and actions. Double trouble. Impeachment number 2. After the January 6th Capitol attack, many people blamed Donald Trump for encouraging his supporters to act violently. Because of this, the House of Representatives decided to impeach Trump for a second time. This was historic because Trump became the first U.S. president to be impeached twice. The charge was incitement of insurrection, which means encouraging people to rebel against the government. The House, led by Democrats, voted to impeach Trump on January 13, 2021. This happened very quickly, just 1 week after the Capitol attack. It was also unusual because it happened when Trump had only a few days left as president. After the House impeached Trump, the case went to the Senate for a trial. The trial took place after Trump had already left office, which was another unusual aspect. In interesting detail, during the Senate trial, Trump's lawyers showed a video montage of Democrats using the word fight in speeches. They argued that if Trump's words were considered incitement, then many politicians should be accused of the same thing. In the end, the Senate voted to acquit Trump. While a majority voted to convict him, it wasn't enough to reach the 2/3 majority required. This meant Trump wasn't punished, but the impeachment remained on his record. Top secret documents. After Trump left the White House in January 2021, he took many documents with him to his home in Florida, called Mar-a-Lago. Some of these documents were classified, which means they contain secret information that's important for national security. By law, when presidents leave office, they're supposed to give all official documents, especially classified ones, to the National Archives. These aren't personal belongings, they belong to the government. When it was discovered that Trump had these documents, the National Archives asked for them back. Some were returned, but not all. This led to a legal battle, and eventually in August 2022, the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago and found more classified documents. This became a big controversy because handling classified documents improperly can be a serious crime. The Justice Department started investigating whether Trump broke any laws by keeping these documents. In interesting detail, some of the classified documents were reportedly found in a storage room next to a pool at Mar-a-Lago. This raised concerns about how securely these sensitive materials were being kept. Trump claimed he had declassified the documents before leaving office, but many experts say there's no evidence of this and that presidents can't just declassify documents by thinking about it. This investigation is ongoing and has become a major legal issue for Trump after his presidency. Billion-dollar shell game. In September 2022, New York's Attorney General Letitia James sued Donald Trump, his children, and his company, the Trump Organization. This happened after a long investigation into how Trump ran his business. The lawsuit claims that Trump and his company did some dishonest things with their money and property values. They're accused of 1. Making their properties seem more valuable than they really were when applying for loans. 2. Making these same properties seem less valuable when it came time to pay taxes. 3. Lying about how much money they had to get better deals and pay less in taxes. The Attorney General says they did this for over 10 years, and it helped them make more money unfairly. In interesting detail, one of the properties mentioned in the lawsuit is Trump's apartment in Trump Tower. The lawsuit claims Trump said it was 30,000 square feet when it's actually 10,996 square feet. This made the apartment seem 3 times larger and much more valuable than it really is. If the court agrees with the Attorney General, Trump and his company could face big fines and might be stopped from doing business in New York. Trump says the lawsuit is politically motivated and denies doing anything wrong. This case is still going on and is one of the several legal challenges Trump faces. Stormy scandal hits the Big Apple. In March 2023, Donald Trump was indicted, which means formally accused of a crime, in New York. This case is about money paid to keep someone quiet. Here's what happened. In 2016, just before the presidential election, Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, an adult film actress. This money was to keep Daniels from talking about an affair she claimed to have had with Trump years earlier. Trump has denied that this affair happened. The problem isn't just about the payment itself. It's about how it was recorded in Trump's business records. The prosecutors say Trump's company falsely listed the payments as legal expenses, which they claim is a crime. In interesting detail, the case became public knowledge partly because of some odd code names. In the document, Stormy Daniels was reportedly referred to as Peggy Peterson, while Trump was called David Dennison. This indictment is historic because it's the first time a former U.S. president has been charged with a crime. Trump says he's innocent and that the case is politically motivated. The trial is set to begin in 2024, right in the middle of the presidential campaign season, which makes it even more controversial.